Hello everyone. Welcome to the course. My name is Imran. So I'll be instructor for this course. So let's get started. Okay. So before getting directly into the what is this SSIS, SSAS or SSRS, so let's try to understand what is business intelligence, because all these components comes under MSBI, that is Microsoft Business Intelligence, right? So first let's try to understand what is business intelligence. Fine. So always the story starts from data. Okay, so whether it's machine learning or deep learning, or if you're building any applications, or whether it's regarding big data, or it could be anything, right? So any domain. Okay, always the story starts from data, right? So we have a data here exactly. So what I'll do, I'll just so as I told you, so always it starts from data. Right. So we have a data here. Okay, so when I say data, okay, so data is nothing but is a fact, right? So it's actual things. Okay, so if we so whatever the examples I'll give you, okay, it will be in very simple terms. Okay, so here the data, it could be it could be any data, right? Again, if I start talking about the data again, I can speak like almost 1 hour, right? So we have a structured data, we have unstructured data, and we have different measurements of data, right? So we have a nominal, ordinal, ratio, interval. Okay, so we can talk so much about the data, right? So as of now, so you can just think data is nothing but a fact, right? So if you are running any business, of course, like you will be collecting some customer data, right? So even in simple terms, like if you're going for shopping, right? So nowadays, like if you go for any for like Reliance Fresh or any other shopping centers nowadays, they used they now they are collecting the data, right? So you need to give your phone number and name, right? So basically these all things, like they have just started like almost like 5 to 6 years back, right? So nowadays, like wherever you go, right? So if you're purchasing any product or any service, okay, so first they collect the data, right? So data is nothing but a fact. Okay, so it's actual thing, right? So once we have a data, so then what is the business intelligence? Okay, so basically business intelligence is a process of transforming the business data, so whatever the data we have, into the information or a knowledge. Okay, so basically, so whatever the data we have, so we are just transforming the data. Okay, so of course, like there should be some reason, right? So simply will not collect the data, right? So for fun's sake, right? So we have a data, and that data is being transformed into the information. So basically what I said, it's a process of transforming data into the information. Okay, so how we are transforming, of course, using some computer based techniques, right? So why we are transforming, so to take the decisions. Okay, so to take, okay, so to take business decisions, to take fact based decisions. Sorry for my bad handwriting. So I am using the board for the first time actually, huh? Okay. Yeah, so understood. So what is BI? So BI is basically a process of transforming the business data into the information or a knowledge using a computer based techniques. Okay, so why we are transforming the data? Because we need to take the business decisions, right? So when I say data, again here, like we have so many columns, right? So when I say data, okay, data could be in any format. Okay, so it could be CSV format, right? Comma separated values, or it could be data from the SQL Server, right? So data from the SQL Server. Okay, or data could be form of Excel. Okay, so it could be any format. Okay, so any format, any format. Okay, so what we're doing, so we're collecting the data, and why we're collecting, of course, So to transform the data into the some information, okay, so that we can take decisions, right? So why so this process, right? So using some computer techniques, right? So as I told you, so using some computer based techniques, we are transforming the data. So this is called business intelligence, okay? So in simple terms, so this is what the entire thing is, a business intelligence, right? So very simple thing. Okay, so now so of course, like before transforming, okay, it's so when I say like data we need to transform the information, of course there are so many steps involved in this, right? So whatever the data we are just collecting here, right? So whatever the data we are just collecting, yeah, so whatever the data we are collecting, so it involves, okay, so whatever the data we are collecting, okay, so whether it could be in the form of CSV or Excel or XML or JSON, it could be anything, right? So that data, so we need to analyze the data, okay, it involves analysis steps. So whether it's CSV or XML, right, it could be anything. So it involves what? Analysis. Whenever we are just directly feeding the data into the systems, of course we need to do analyze the data, right? So of course we just collect the data and not feed into systems, right? So if I want to transform that data into some information, of course I need to do some analysis, okay, what type of columns we have, so what format, okay, so of course there could be some missing values, or it could be anything, right? So general analysis, okay, so this is one of the step, okay, so which involves, right? So it is, we need to do what? Analysis. And this is steps I'm just adding on, okay, so where we are just transforming, right? So from started from here, right? So we have just added what? Analysis, okay, so we need to perform the analysis on the data, okay, so we can't directly get the data and transform to some information, right? So before getting before transferring the information, of course I need to do some of the analysis on the data which I've just collected, right? So once I'm not done with, okay, so it involves the further steps, okay, so we have a data, so we have a data, right, and we have information. Right, so during this process, okay, so as I told you, so we need to perform what? Analysis on the data, right? So now so when I want to see, of course like when I need information, okay, so when I to gather the information from the data, of course I'll be doing the analysis on the data, right? So of course, like when I'm getting the data, I'll not be directly feeding into the some of the systems, right? So here again there is a concept of something called data warehouse, okay, so whatever the data I'm just collecting, okay, so it has to be stored in a place, right? So the place where the data is being stored, okay, so we call it as a data warehouse, okay, so that I can further analyze the data, okay, so data warehouse. So whatever the data I'm just collecting, so I'll be storing into the data warehouse, right? From the data warehouse I'll be doing the analysis, okay, so from where I'm getting the information, so here I have a analysis, okay, so very simple things. What? So we have a data, right? So that data, okay, so it could be of any format, so I'm just collecting the data and storing inside the data warehouse, okay, so you can just think a data warehouse as uh, um, a place where the data is being stored, right? So that you can just perform the analysis on the data, right? So here we have all this historical data, okay, so all the historical data has been saved, whenever you are collecting the data, so all the data, okay, it could be of any month or year, okay, so all the data is being stored in data warehouse, and from the data warehouse you directly do the analysis, okay, so from where you're getting the information. And during this process, okay, so from data to the data warehouse, okay, so here again involves involves many steps. Okay, so when I say like I'm just moving the data, okay, from the data to the data warehouse, okay, so again I have so many steps involved here. Okay, so what, so this data has to be extracted. I'm just breaking down the steps now, right? So what I'll do, I'll just neatly draw one final this thing. So here, so first I'll draw the boxes. Okay, so we have a data. So what we do, so next we are doing the extraction, then we are doing the transformation, then we load the data, and that data is being loaded into the data warehouse solution, and the data which is being stored in data warehouse solution will do analysis on that, and finally we get the information. Okay, so first, as I told you, so we have a data. So this is the final steps involved, right? So we have a data, right? So data could be CSV, it could be XML, or it could be binary, JSON, anything. Okay, so this data, so first we need to extract it. Okay, these all steps will involve. Okay, so we'll do analysis on the data, all those things. Okay, so what we are doing, we're doing the extraction. Okay, so that extracted data, okay, so we'll do something called transformation. So I'll explain what is this transformation, extraction, all those things. Okay, transformation. Okay, so finally after doing the transformation, I'll be loading the data. Okay, so that data which is being loaded, okay, so that the directly while I'll be loading, so inside the data warehouse. Right, and the data which is present in the data warehouse, I'll be doing what, analysis, and finally I'll be extracting the information. Okay, so when I said transformation, okay, here we have so many steps. So I'll take one example and explain you. Okay, so this is what the entire process is. Okay, so when I say business intelligence, so business intelligence is a process of transforming the business data. Okay, so whatever the data you have, business data, into the information. Okay, so into information using the computer based techniques. Okay, so which enables the user to take effective or fact based decisions. So this is what the business intelligence. So now if I speak specifically to the Microsoft MSBI, okay, so we have different tools to perform all those things, right? So if I want to extract the data, we have a certain tools. If I want to perform the analysis, I have certain tools. Okay, if I want to share the reports of whatever the analysis I have done, I have a certain rules, right? So now we are specifically talking about MSBI, that is Microsoft Business Intelligence. Okay, and whatever the here we have these steps, right? So these steps basically we called as ETL. Okay, so this entire thing we call as ETL, that is extract, transform, and load. In short, we call it as ETL. So we have extract, transform, and load, right? And this is in simple terms, you can just consider this as a MSBI, right? So now let's try to understand with a simple example. Okay, so what I'll do, so now we'll start specifically talking about MSBI. Okay, so MSBI, so Microsoft Business Intelligence. So we understood what is business intelligence, right? So with respect to the Microsoft, okay, so we have a different tools to perform all this analysis, right? So what are these tools? Of course we have when I say tools, of course we have so many tools, right? So we have majorly three tools, that is SSIS, SSIS, we have SSRS, and we have SSAS. Okay, so these are the three tools, okay, so which is used under MSBI, that is Microsoft Business Intelligence. Let's try to understand this with an example. Okay, so now let us consider, so you have we have a company. Okay, so we have a company. Okay, so assume like it could be any manufacturing company or could be a thing. Okay, assume like we have a company. Okay, so where we are manufacturing some of the devices. Okay, electronic devices. Okay, so it could be anything. Okay, so I'll just take here phones. Okay, so we this is our company. Okay, so so now, okay, so we have all this inbuilt data in our company, right? So of course, like when we are running some business, of course we'll have all the data, right? So within the company, so assume like this company is as I told you, so of course so we'll be what, selling phones here. Okay, okay, so we'll be selling mobile phones. Okay, so when I say selling, of course the company has its own website, right? So where the users can just log in and they can just purchase the phones, right? So the company can has its own website, right? So where they display the phones, right? And the users can just get into this website and directly buy the product, right? Of course, like whatever they're just viewing, okay, they're doing a click stream, okay, like whatever the just clicking onto the tabs, right? So that data, okay, so the user information, okay, they're just registering or login, sign up, okay, when they are logging, the age group of the users, any information, right? The geographical location, so based on the traffic, okay, so all the data is being stored. Okay, so all the data, okay, of the company data, like with respect to this company, okay, so all the data is stored in, assume like they are using the SQL Server. Okay, so now the SQL Server is the database. Okay, so you should know the difference between the database and uh, warehouse. I'll explain that. Okay, so assume like all the data is being stored under the SQL Server, and okay, so assume like this is what the process, right? Okay, so now let us assume, okay, so whatever the company we have, okay, so even we have a distributors, okay, so different distributors where we distribute our mobile phones to the different distributors across the country. Okay, so different geographical locations. Okay, so we have different distributors. So we have a distributor one. Okay, so we have so many distributors, right? Assume like we have thousands of distributors. Okay, so what we do, so basically we distribute the mobile phones to these distributors. Okay, and they sell the product. Okay, so they sell our product. Okay, so these are the different distributors. So now assume like we have one problem here. Okay, so we are facing one issues. Okay, so we are facing issues in demand and supply. Okay, so even though this is a new company, okay, so we have our own website, okay, where the users get the mobile phones. Okay, we have all this process, and this is the separate thing. Okay, so we are just storing all the data in the SQL Server. Okay, so now assume like we have the different distributors and we are facing issue in the demand and the supply. Okay, so we are not able to figure it out. Okay, so what is the demand in certain regions, and what is supplies being made. Assume like this distributor, okay, so in this specific region, okay, so there is a huge demand. Okay, so but we are supplying in different region, okay, where there is a no demand. Okay, so of course like we have a mismatch. Okay, so and we don't have a proper information. Okay, so that we can just gather those information and make decision. Okay, so of course this region is has a huge demand. Okay, we need to supply it here, right? So we don't have a clear picture in onto this. So what we do, okay, so so first we ask this all this distributor, okay, to get the data. Okay, so get the data in a sense. Okay, so so of course the distributor, whatever the basic information is, and what is the demand and what is the supply in their specific region and all those things. Okay, so of course this distributor maybe like this is a small distributor. Okay, so he may be storing the data in the CSV format, right? So all the data he may be storing in the CSV format, right? So of course the distributor may be storing in the SQL Server. Okay, um, okay, so this distributor may be storing in some other format, right? Excel format. Okay, it could be any format. Okay, so there are thousands of formats, right? So the different distributors will be storing the different data. Okay, so when I ask, okay, them to send the data, of course we have so many variety of the data, right? And so when I say send the data, of course when I say send, okay, so what I'll doing, so of course I need certain tool to extract those data from the distributors, right? So under the MSBI, there is where the first component comes into picture, that is SSIS, SQL Server Integration Service. Okay, so SQL Server Integration Service. So what is integration service? So here for in the first step, so we are just collecting the data here. Okay, so we are extracting the data. Okay, it could be of any format from the CSV, okay, it could be SQL or database, or it could be XML, or okay, it could be any format, and that data we are just storing into our in our environment. Okay, so with help of the tool that is SSIS, that is SQL Server Integration Service. Okay, so so this is the first step, right? So we are just collecting. Okay, so so in this SSIS, okay, so we can perform all the three things, that is we can just extract it. Okay, so whatever I've just drawn in the above, right? So we can just do extract. So when I say extract, we are just collecting the data. Okay, so we can just do the transformation. Okay, so and we can just load the data into the destination. Okay, so when I say transformation, so now assume like this whatever the person here collecting the data, okay, he may be collecting only the first name, right? Or this person may collecting the first name and the last name. Okay, this person may be collecting all the first name, last name, and the middle name, right? And there are the different different formats. And when I say transformation, it could be anything. Okay, so format like here like this person may have like many columns, or this person may be have only collecting the few columns, right? Or like when I want to get the data, okay, so I should have uniformity, right? So that I like I may have a company standards. Okay, I need only the first name, okay, and the last name. Okay, so and I want all the names, customer names in the capital, right? So all the basic transformations I can do. Okay, so when I when I say transformation, okay, again there are different steps. Okay, we have a cleaning. Okay, we have we can remove the duplicates. Okay, we have duplications, we have a format revisions, we have a key restructuring. Okay, there are different transformation techniques which involve. Okay, so we have extraction, we have a transformation, and finally we load the data. Okay, so when I say so remember always when I say extract, it is always a source. Okay, so when I say load, it is destination. Okay, so for the SSIS, I have a complete separate the separate tutorial for that, right? Under the one neuron. Okay, you can just first watch that video. Okay, SSIS, so where I have just covered all the basic details and some of the techniques. Okay, so for the SSIS. Okay, anyways, in this tutorial also I'll be starting with the SSIS. Okay, so because so when I say MSBI, okay, it's the integration of all these three major components, that is SSIS, RS, and AS, right? So so I'll be starting, but I'll not be getting into the deep. Okay, so I'll be directly starting with the SSIS. Okay, so in the deep, in the sense like I'll not be explaining the different tabs which is present, because already I have a course in SSIS. Okay, where I have just explained in detail. Okay, so yeah, so let's continue. So this is the first step, right? So whatever I've just explained here, so what I've done, so I'm just doing the basic ETL. Okay, so whatever I've just done here, same thing, right? So till here it's the same thing. Okay, so we have a collecting, so we are doing the extract, transform, and the load. So extract as well is the source, right? It could be of different sources, and we know like why we're doing the transformation, and finally we are loading the destination. And so when I say destination, okay, of course the majority it will be data warehouse. Okay, fine. So let's get back. So here, so what I did, so I just collected all this data. Okay, so and the tool which I'll be using is SSIS, that is SQL Server Integration Service. Fine, so where I'm just performing the ETL process. Again, see, there are different tools to perform ETL. Okay, as we're talking MSBI, so here in the MSBI, so the first tool which we will use is SSIS, that is SQL Server Integration Service. Fine. So now we have just collected the data. Okay, so all the data is being collected from this distributor, and all the data is being stored. Okay, and in the data warehouse. Okay, so now the data is present in the data warehouse. So what we need, the next step we need to do. Okay, so we have just extracted, transformed the data, and we have just loaded, and we need to store in the data warehouse, and the data is being stored in data warehouse. Now what we need to do, we need to do analysis, right? So now we need to do what? Analysis. We need to do analysis, and this analysis, okay, so now this analysis can be done. Okay, so whatever the data I'm just getting, okay, so I can make use of a service called SSRS, that is SQL Server Reporting Service. Okay, so where I can generate all the reports. Okay, I can generate the report. Okay, so whatever the report I need, okay, so which I was looking for, right? So what is the demand and supply, and all the details. Okay, so you can think of any product, okay, as an example, but in overview will remain the same. Okay, so if you want to do analysis, so we have one more service that, as I told you, SSRS, that is SQL Server Reporting Service. Okay, so where I'll be doing the analysis, and where I'll be generating the different reports. Okay, so it's a different service. Okay, so once I done with the integration, okay, so we have SSRS. See, the most of the company, okay, when they're opting their entire stack to be a Microsoft. Okay, so this is what the flow is. Okay, so of course they'll not be using some different tool for different tool to extract ETL process, and different tool for reporting. It's very less, but yeah, so if they're opting for the Microsoft stack, okay, so they'll be using the entire stack. Okay, so that they can maintain the data integrity, and they have so that then need not to worry about the support also, right? So because the entire stack will be under the umbrella, right? So we have SSIS, okay, so where we doing for the extract, transform, and the load, and we have a same other service in the Microsoft. Okay, so where we need to perform the analysis. Okay, so that is SQL Server Reporting Service. So till here it's fine. Okay, so assume like this is not a huge company. Okay, so we have just collected the data, we can just do analysis, and this is fine. Assume like now, so this is a very big company now, right? So so whatever the data we are just collecting, it's in huge, okay, terabyte of data. Okay, so huge amount of data. So during that process, we can't perform the analysis using the SSRS. Okay, so what happens is it becomes slow. Okay, so because of the huge amount of data which is being collected, and we are just trying to perform the analysis on the huge data. Okay, so during that process, the SSRS becomes slow. Okay, so so what we do is, so whatever the data is being collected, okay, so whatever the data we have stored under the a database or data warehouse, or destination, could be anything. Okay, so whatever the data we have stored here, right, so we have a different structure, okay, data structure in under the Microsoft, and that structure, okay, so basically we convert this structure to something called a cube structure. Okay, so we'll understand. Okay, so we'll in detail. Okay, so in the cube structure, this is kind of a data structure. Okay, so assume like we have stored the data inside the database. Okay, so we convert that data for the star schema format. Okay, so the data has to be in the form of star schema, okay, or snowflake format, right? So that data star schema, in the sense like we have a fact and dimensions. Okay, so should know the basics of SQL as well. Okay, so that it will be easy for you to understand, like when I say some of the keywords like this, okay, star schema format. So where we'll have a fact, right, and they'll like we have star, like we have so many components attached to it, right. So we'll build something called like relations, right. So we have a main table here, right. So we'll have a different relations to that particular table, okay. So which we, of course this concept will be is in under the Microsoft SQL Server, right. So okay, so assume like the kind of this format is present under the what, data warehouse, right. Okay, inside the data warehouse. And so whenever you are converting into this cube structure, okay, so this cube data structure, the data has to be in the format in this format, right, where we have ER relations, okay, entity and relationship, ER relations, okay. So that data is being converted into form of star schema, okay. So where we have a fact, okay, and we have a something called dimension, fact, and we have dimensions, different dimensions. So whatever the data we have here, okay, so that data is being converted into a new data structure, okay. So that is the facts and the dimensions, okay. I'll explain what is facts and dimensions, okay. And whatever we are just doing, okay, and we are performing the analysis on this cube, okay. So and the cube will have all the cells and everything, okay. So we'll perform analysis on the cube and this process, okay. So what we are doing, okay, so because the data is huge and we are spending a lot of time here, okay, so taking time to generate the reports, okay. So so instead of this, what we are doing, so whatever the data we have, we're just converting in different data format, that is cubes, and we are doing the analysis on this cubes and this service, okay. So what we are going to study here is called SSAS, analytics service, okay. So these are the major three techniques, okay. So we have SSIS for the integration, okay. So and we have SSRS, that is the reporting services, okay. So and we have SSAS, okay, so SQL Server Analytics Service, okay. So here it's a different thing, okay. So majority of the people, like almost 70%, okay. So the company uses SSIS and SSRS, okay. And yeah, so there are very less percentage, okay, so where people will be using SSAS. As I told you, so SS is a complete different form, to analyze the data we have different structure itself, right. So we have a cube, right. So as I told you, so we have fact and dimension. So what is fact and dimension now? So for example, like assume like we are doing the analysis on the amount or like sales data, okay. So here the sales will be the main factor, okay. So when I say fact, the sales amount, sales, when I say only sales, okay. So sales amount, okay, is a fact now, okay. So we have a column where we have a sales, that is actual fact, right. So we'll attach dimensions to this sales. What is the dimensions? Like which region, okay, which product, on what date it was sold, right. So we are attaching the dimensions to it, right. So basically we are converting the data which is present under the data warehouse or database into the what, into this format, that is star schema format, okay. So where we have a fact and dimensions, okay. So here all these calculations will be done like here why it is fast compared to this, because all this calculation is pre-calculated, okay. So when we convert this into the cubes, okay, so all the data will be present inside the cells, and when we're doing the analysis, it will take very less time to extract the information, right. So this is what the entire flow is, okay. So we'll start with the SSIS, okay, so which is the integration service, where we extract the data, okay, of the different formats, and during this process we'll do extract, transform, and the load, we'll do transformation, and finally load into the destination, okay. So and next so once you have loading destination, we need to perform the analysis. So I'll be using the SSRS, that is SQL Server reporting service, and this is fine up to like we have like we don't have a much amount of data, okay. So so we are good to go here, right. So when we have a huge amount of data, of course we can't perform the analysis, it will take a lot of time to perform all this analysis, okay. So finally what we do, okay, so we have another service called SSAS, okay, so where we convert the data in a new format, that is a new data structure that we call as a cube, okay. So so where we store the data in the 5 cells, okay, we can just perform the analysis on that particular cube itself, okay. This is what the entire process is, okay. So I hope you are getting, okay. So I have just explained in a very simple manner, okay, so that you'll understand all these three services. So now so this is what the all these three services involved in, okay. Fine. And now, so what is the one major thing even I wanted to tell is, okay, so even you should know this. Okay, so what is OLAP and OLTP? Okay, so what is OLAP? So basically, OLAP is the online analytical processing. Okay, so I'll just write down this. Even this is important, so you should know all these things. Okay, so if you are this is all the prerequisite. Okay, should know all this things like what is OLAP. Okay, so we have OLAP, and on the other side we have OLTP. Okay, so when I say OLAP, so this is the online analytical processing. Okay, so basically it's a type of software tool that are used for the data analysis for the business decisions. Okay, so this is the analytical processing. So here basically we have a data warehouse. Okay, so it provides an environment. Okay, so that we can get the insights from the different database systems at one time. Okay, so here we'll have all the historical data present in OLAP. Okay, so assume like so here we'll have a different kind of, for example, this is the one database, this is another database, this is another database. Okay, so we are just collecting all the data information from the database and storing into the one at the one place. Okay, so we'll call it as a warehouse. Okay, so we know in general terms we know what is warehouse, right? So all the data is stored, and whatever the data is stored in data warehouse, we'll perform analysis on that. Okay, so this is what OLAP, that is online analytical processing, and this system is used for the analytic processing. Okay, so on the side we have a transaction processing, that is online transaction processing. So here transaction processing in the sense like you can, best example here we take an ATM, right? So for example, like when you go to the ATM, you'll enter your basic details, right, to withdraw the amount or you want to deposit, right? So when you enter, okay, of course the whatever the pin you're entering, there should be authentication. We need to do authentication, right? So that data we can't store in the data warehouse. Okay, so this is like where the data is being dumped into this one place. Okay, so of course the data can't come here and go through all the data present inside this, right? So we have, that is what the database is, right? So here the example is data will present in the database. Okay, so when you enter the pin, it will go to the database and it will back authenticate, and you are able to withdraw the amount, right? So ATM is a basic example. We are doing a real time processing here. That's a transaction. Okay, so the online transaction processing. Okay, so of course it has a three-tier architecture again. Okay, it handles all these asset properties. Okay, so if you know about the databases. Okay, uh, okay, so all the examples like online banking, airline ticket booking. Okay, sending text message in the real time. Okay, so there's online transaction processing. Okay, if you want to do so here this entire thing is a data warehouse. You can just think in a simple manner. Okay, so where we have historical data, and here this is the database where we'll do a real time processing. Okay, so here will we have a databases concepts. Fine, so these are the two major things you need to remember. Fine, so this is all about business intelligence. So what we'll be doing is we'll be starting with the SSIS. Okay, so where we'll try to like in a single project. Okay, we'll do the extract, transform, and the load. Again, we'll do what analysis on the data, creating the reports, and finally we'll do SSAS, that is analysis on like how we can just convert the data inside in the cube structure. Okay, there's factor and dimensions and all those things. Okay, so this is what the theory part. Okay, so I hope you understood. Okay, so in the next step what we'll do is we need to have the tools to perform this, right? So of course we should have a SQL Server. Again, the installation is a bit headache. Okay, so because there are so many versions, so many different tools. Okay, so should not get confused. So in my tutorial I'll be using SQL Server, uh, SQL Server. Okay, so 19. Okay, so have a SQL Server 2019. Again, it's of your choice. Okay, so if you have a latest one, you can just do it. But yeah, so here and there'll be of slight changes in the wizard or in the process, but the entire process will remain the same. Okay, so I have a SQL Server 2019 installation. Okay, so which will be in the upcoming video. Okay, if you have already done the installation, you can just skip the installation part. Okay, and I'm using a SQL Server Management Studio 18 version, and again I'll be using the 17 version as well, because as I told you, okay, so whatever the data we have here, okay, we'll be doing the ER relation, right? So entity will building the ER relation. Those so like in the 17 version, we can just do we had an interface, okay, so where we can just perform all those things up to 17th version. In 18 version we don't have that, so even I'll be using that too for the teaching. Okay, and I have another tool. Okay, um, that is all this installation will come in the next video. Okay, I'm just wanted to show you. Okay, so yeah, SQL Server. Okay, so I have 18, and Visual Studio, I have one more tool, that is SSDT. Okay, so this is if I just go here, so this is SQL Server data tools. Okay, so here I can just perform so whatever I've just showed you, right? So we can just perform all the analysis service. I can do the reporting service. So as I told you, again, you should not get confused. Okay, so we have a SSMS. Okay, so SQL Server Management Studio. So there are three things. I'll just show you here itself. So difference between SSMS. Okay, we'll see the difference. Right. Yeah, so here you can see, so Visual Studio, okay, is a primarily used to make a development, okay, easier. Okay, so like if you want to develop in the develop in the sense, like we have analytics service, we have about reporting service, so we have Visual Studio. So in so I'll be using a Visual Studio. So if I just open my apps here, so I have a Visual Studio, that is SSDT. I'll just show you. uh, yeah, so I have a different versions here. Okay, so Visual Studio 22. Okay, so Visual Studio code is totally different. Okay, this is IDE, right? So I have a Visual Studio of SSDT. Okay, so SQL Server data tools. Okay, it's used for the development. So we have a SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, so it is mainly oriented towards making the management of SQL Server. So so first we'll install the SQL Server. So then we'll have a SQL Server Management Studio where you can just manage that particular server. Okay, again we have a different versions and for that. Okay, and I'll be using a Visual Studio, that is SSDT. So in the upcoming video we'll have installation for, I'll just show you the steps. Okay, so how we can just install the SQL Server and the Management Studio, and so once you're done that, okay, so we'll have show you how to install the Visual Studio. So now I'll just show you how to install the Visual Studio, because in upcoming slide you'll be having like how to install this SQL Server and the Management Studio. For the Visual Studio, okay, you can just search for Microsoft SSDT. So here you can see, so SQL Server Data Tools is a modern development tool for building a SQL Server relational database in Azure. Okay, so we can perform the analysis service, we have a data models, we have integration service packages, and we have a reporting services. Okay, right? So this is what our requirement is, right? So we need to perform the reporting, we need to perform the analysis on the cubes, we need to create the cubes and all those things, right? So how we can just do with the help of the SSDT Visual Studio. Okay, so this is the latest version, but I think like I'm using some other version. Okay, so so if you just scroll down, you'll have an option for older version as well. Okay, I'll just open it and show you here itself. Visual Studio 2017 DTDT. Yeah, so this is what the wizard is. Okay, so when I go to the file and if I want to create a new project, okay, so here you can see, so based on the different, okay, so now we are specific document business intelligence. If I just try to expand, so we have analysis service, okay, so we have integration service, and we have a reporting service. So all these things I am getting from the Microsoft Visual Studio. Okay, so you need to download this. Fine, so this is what I'm just showing. So which was the version here? Yeah, 17, right? Yeah, you can just directly search for the 17 itself. Okay, so if you want to follow along, if you want to directly download, you can just download it. Mm. No, you'll get older version link here itself. Install. Okay. Mm, all downloads. Yeah, so here older downloads. If you go to older downloads, you can see like you can go for 17 here. Okay, so from here you can just download it. So once you have downloaded, you have to do next, 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 next. That's it. Okay, so but in the between, if they're asking, okay, which services you want to install it, okay, always try select what three things. We need integration service, analysis service, and reporting service. Okay, so this is for the Visual Studio. Okay, so you need to, which I have already downloaded and have just installed it. Okay, so this step, and in upcoming video, okay, we'll have a steps to how to download this SQL Server. That is, I'm using the 19, and we have a Management Studio of 18 version. I think Management Studio 18 version. Yeah, right. So yeah, so this is all about this thing. Okay, so we'll get started with the how to do the integration, how we can. So whatever I've explained here, theory part. Okay, so we'll be doing a hands-on on this entire things. Okay, so yeah, so let's continue our discussion in the next video.